Hey guys, and welcome to Tech Town.
Yeah, all right.
I'm Mr. Ellsberg, and this is Professor Danny Bauman.
Hello.
This is our 27th episode this year, and we're going to be talking fixing computers.
Yeah, this one's specifically about fixing kind of slowness of computers.
Okay.
You know, last week we had a good guest on to talk about fixing the physical laptop,
Right.
unscrewing some things. We talked about building a computer.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's going to be about, let's say you've got a computer going,
Mm-hmm.
but it starts running slow, or there's some weird pop-ups, and all that kind of stuff that always comes up. We're going to help fix that.
This is a problem everyone's had. I've had it.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's
Professor Bauman's had it.
I've had it.
Yeah.
Everybody I've known has had it, and so it's just one of these things. Once we get these cool, fancy computers and phones and things, they start out pretty fresh and pretty smooth and fast, and everything's
Right.
great. And then over time, something starts happening. I don't know. It's a little better than it used to be, but still things slow down.
Right. So why would you? Yeah. So let's just talk about this. So what are some things? Why would this happen?
Yeah.
Why isn't it running fast all the
Right.
time?
What's the deal? I mean, is there like mold growing in there or what? No.
Right.
So it's not mold. It's
Right.
not.
Could be hair. I mean, we checked last week.
It could be. So I take that back. Certain physical things can cause problems. Some hair, some dust. I think we're going to say once we fix those problems,
Okay.
or there's a lot of other causes for these sort of problems.
All right.
So I would say that the main causes of these slowness of computers are that a lot of things are running
Okay.
at once.
Uh-huh.
Maybe some that you know about, but
Yep.
maybe some sneaky other things that you don't really know are running.
Yeah.
Are kind of dragging it down.
Right.
That's a big one.
Too many Napster downloads
Yeah. Uh-huh.
in my case.
Number two is the bad version of that, the malicious version of that. There are some people that install spyware or malware, these things on your computer,
Right.
and it kind of sitting there not doing useful stuff in the background. It's
Mhm.
doing malicious stuff in the background.
Right.
So we're going to help you a quick note on how to get rid of some of that stuff. And then another reason things could happen slowly is, let's say multiple users are logged in on that computer.
Right.
So you can have one computer, but you can have different user accounts.
Uh-huh.
You can also have different people using that at the same time. So
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever tried to use a computer, switch accounts, and use it as a different account. But you can do that. But what happens is that first account may not be closed yet. It may still be sitting there.
Okay.
And this actually can happen on a bigger scale, where there's some computers, not your own personal computer, but there's computers that are communal computers,
Mhm.
where you may not know it, but 10 people are using it at the same time. So sometimes that can actually be a cause. I would say don't worry about that as much. That's not really the standard case.
Right.
For most people, they just use their one user on their one computer.
Mhm.
But that may be a problem.
It's a good thing to remember. So we have communal computers here at the school. We
Right.
also have communal computers at the library. If you're
Mhm.
traveling, at a hostel,
Mm-hmm.
maybe at a company. There's
Mhm.
lots of instances where you're going to be using communal computers.
Exactly. So, and sometimes there's not much you can do about that one, too. It's not
Right.
like you have the permission to go and close everybody else's account. So it's
Yep.
just to know that may be happening. Antivirus programs, they are good in certain ways and not quite so good in other ways. They're good if you have one of them, if it's a good one, and if it's not hogging your computer to do the normal day-to-day stuff.
Okay.
So a lot of antivirus things will just really hog your computer, and they'll be wanting to always scan and look at things, which is a good idea, but there are ones that take less of that. And
Right.
so it will free up your computer to do more things.
Right. It's trying to move around when you're in a safe room or something like that. You're not going to do much traveling if you've got 7 feet of brick wall in between you and everything else.
It's true. You've got that brick wall to protect you, but hey, doing other stuff is a little difficult.
Right.
So what I recommend is very thin but super advanced walls.
Some Kevlar stuff.
Some Kevlar stuff. And then especially multiple antivirus programs running at the same time.
Okay.
That is the ultimate hog, and also not very useful. So you have one that's trying to do all this stuff, another one is trying to do all this stuff. They're kind of angry at each other because one thinks the other is a virus. So bottom line, I'd recommend having one antivirus program,
Okay.
and that may help things
All
out.
right.
Another one is running advanced visual effects. So on certain versions of Windows and other operating systems, you can really tune up the graphics
Mhm.
or tune down the graphics.
Right.
So a lot of people want the best graphics. You want to make it look all cool and have transparent windows, and then when you switch, it animates. That's cool looking, but if your computer's running a little bit slow, there's actually some ways to turn off or down some of
That's
those
good.
features, so that maybe you don't get the cool flashy animations, but at least you can run a little smoother.
Right. Everyone's a gamer.
Everyone's a gamer. We'll talk about games specifically a little bit later too,
Okay, cool.
because games have their own version of this. So, okay, pop quiz. Let's say the computer's doing something, running slow, something's weird's going on. What is the #1 thing you should try if, nothing else?
I'll usually turn my browser off or, something like that. Maybe restart.
Right, restart. It's a good term, a good concept. Restart some things. First thing you can restart is like the program you care about. So you said your browser. Maybe you're visiting a website.
Not responding. Gotcha.
Not responding.
Yeah. Close it.
Close it. Reopen it. Maybe it's fixed. If you notice that it's been pretty slow for like a day, maybe you need to reboot the whole computer. You can try restarting programs, but don't consider yourself a computer expert if you haven't tried rebooting the computer. That's still, to this day, you gotta sometimes just reboot.
Yep, that's true.
I heard a good joke. So Bill Gates was driving down the street, and he's a passenger, and someone else is driving. How about Steve Jobs? So Steve Jobs driving, Bill Gates is in the passenger seat. Steve Jobs hears something's going on with the car, something's wrong. And Bill Gates, like, something's wrong, what's the deal? And Steve Jobs thinks, oh, I think I know what the problem is here. It's probably something with the tire. This tire might be having a little nail in it or something. And Bill Gates is like, no. All you got to do, pull over to the side of the road. They pull over to the side. He says, open all 4 doors. Close them again and try the car, and boom, it works just fine. So the idea is, not rebooting won't solve all your problems, but hey, turn off the car, open all the doors, close them again, plug it in, start it up, and maybe that'll help you fix the computer. Now, that may not help you fix the computer. So even if you reboot, stuff still may be going on. Now we can start getting into the territory of where it matters which computer or device you're using. If you're using Windows versus a Mac versus a smartphone. So all these have different kind of paths to help. So ways that you can start down looking down specific things. So first let's talk about Windows.
Most of our students have Windows.
Okay, cool. So that may be a good place to start. So Windows, like all these other operating systems and devices, have a lot of things that start up when you first start the computer. So you'll have obvious things like, the fact that it can show the screen doing anything. The screen turns on. That's one thing. But I'm talking not just the screen turning on and the sound working. I'm talking about it's loading up a lot of programs, a lot of things. Some of it may be stuff you care about. Maybe you have it automatically starting Dropbox. Or maybe you have it automatically starting your favorite music program that you listen to, iTunes or something like that.
Maybe pop up Skype or something.
Skype, right. So a lot of people do this on purpose, where I want this to start up with the computer. More often, it's actually, I didn't mean to, but it happens.
Sneaky.
So, so far we're still in the territory of good software. But maybe it's not quite doing what you want. So maybe you install Skype, maybe you install Dropbox or iTunes, and the next time you start up your computer, maybe just in the lower right, in that little corner, it shows a little icon. Okay, so maybe iTunes is doing something, or HP's printer thing is doing something, but you see in that lower right of Windows, that'll start piling up. And one good quick sign to know if you're in trouble is if that little thing on the right has more than maybe 3, 4 things in it. If you start getting 5 or 7, Windows does a good job of trying to hide that now with a little arrow. But if you get in there and you see like 7, 10 things are running, they may be things that you didn't even know were running. They may be things that are kind of important like Skype, but for reasons that I'll explain, you may be able to not have run. So what happens is all this stuff is running, and it's hard to describe what it all is because it could be anything. It could be important, could be not, could be bad, could be good. So in Windows, there's a good way to figure out how this is all happening. So there's something they came out with called msconfig. MSCONFIG.
Cheater code.
Cheater code. So I'll show you how that works in Windows 8. So I'm running Windows 8 right now, and if you're running an earlier version of Windows, the beginning of this will look the same, but the end of it will look a little bit different. So Windows 8, what you get to do is you get to run commands here.
Oh, so now we're in this PC.
Yeah, this is my computer. Here we go. If I type msconfig, then it'll show a little result here, hopefully. There we go.
Boom.
Okay, so what I just did was the Windows 8 version of doing that, but in Windows 7 and Windows Vista, there's the little start button down here, and then a text box. If you just type in msconfig in that text box. I also, in the show notes, in the description under the YouTube video, I have a link to all this stuff so you can see exactly how to do it. What you'll get is you'll get this little box, system configuration. Now that was kind of sneaky. it seems hidden. You had to type this weird ms config thing, and I agree, that is kind of weird because of how important this is. I'd say everybody should know about this, but it just seems kind of hidden and weird. So the first thing you might notice on your own computer, if you have never done this before, you'll see this normal startup checked, but I have my selective startup checked. And once you start doing what I'm going to do, it's going to switch that, because normal startup says load everything.
Yep.
You know, whatever Skype told me to do, I'm going to do it. Fine. Selective startup means, only load certain things. I don't want this to load when I load my computer. So if you go to the Startup tab, that's the first place to start. In Windows 8, you'll notice this actually used to, in Windows 7 and before, it used to have the real things right here. They moved it and actually made it, they realized how important this is, so they moved it to a place that more people are going to find. So if you are using an earlier version, right here you'll see what I'm about to show you. In Windows 8, it's actually in the Task Manager.
Got it.
So the Task Manager is another thing you may have seen in Windows, where it shows everything that's going on right now. This is Windows 8 version of it. They kind of updated for making it a little easier.
Right.
This has everything that's going on right now. It has a few other things, but here there's a Startup tab now.
Right.
So this will show you on Windows 8 what it previously showed you on the earlier versions, which is the list of everything that's starting with your computer.
Wow.
And some of these things may look familiar. Okay, Adobe Reader, that sounds kind of familiar. QuickTime, Apple something or other. Spotify, okay, I've heard of that. I like that. Some weird things I don't understand. Hey, Dropbox. So what you're seeing is my own version of it, but there's always going to be a mix of things you understand and things you don't understand. Things you have installed on purpose and things you haven't.
Right.
So here it's a column called enabled or disabled. In the earlier version, it's going to be a checkbox. But what you can do is you can go through and disable every single thing if you want.
Right.
So that's one way to do it, is just say, I don't want any of this to start. What's going to happen? So what you'll do is you'll disable things. You know, you can right-click and say disable, or right-click and say enable, and do it to everything. You could highlight everything, and then restart your computer and see what happens. Something may break. There's always a chance that something would break. If that's the case, you gotta hopefully go back here and undo what you did.
Right.
These days, I think things won't break that much. I think it'll be okay. The computer will start. You know, maybe one program won't work as well or something, but in general, most of these things won't break things. And the reason they won't break things is because what these aren't really the program itself all the time. It's little helper programs.
Okay.
So imagine you're Skype. What Skype wants to do is Skype wants to have their software run fast, right? They want everybody to think Skype is great, everything else is bad.
Right.
So what Skype will do is Skype will put something that starts up with your computer that's not just Skype the program, it's Skype the helper.
Got it.
And Skype the helper is going to just be in the corner. It's not going to look like it's doing anything. Maybe it's not even in the corner. It's just going to help load things when you start your computer that aren't really necessary yet. But when you launch Skype, then it's going to go quicker because it's already done some work.
I got it.
So if you're only Skype, that sounds great.
Right.
Because people will think Skype runs fast when I launch it.
Okay.
Hey, maybe the computer doesn't start very fast, but that's got to be someone else's fault, right?
Yeah.
Turns out, no, a lot of these programs are doing that, and that ends up being the problem. So that Skype helper, there's a Skype helper, there's a Dropbox helper, there's a Google helper, an Adobe helper. All these things are not the program itself, just these things that are using up your computer so that when you start them, it will be easier.
Got it.
That sounds cool, but it ends up bogging down the computer. So a lot of these things in msconfig, if you disable it, like I disabled Spotify, I disabled Dropbox, it's not that I uninstalled the program, it's that when I start them, they'll take a little bit longer to start, but everything else will run a lot faster.
Got it. So here's my thing. So I've taken a lot of programs before that I've seen when I've pressed Control-Alt-Delete, went to Task Manager, and I went to my Task Manager and I saw these things were running, and I just went through and started deleting everything, which is not a good thing to do. I found out the hard way.
Yeah.
So when you go through and do this, you know, like, what is your guide to okay and not okay? Is this trial and error status?
Great question.
Is that what's going to happen?
So I learned mostly by trial and error. So I deleted everything and ruined Windows and broke my mom's computer.
Great.
So
Nice. Yeah,
you could start there.
Yep.
But these days we have Google.
All right.
And so there's a great question, though, because a lot of this stuff looks confusing. If you were to look at that screen, it would say clip X or like you know, these weird combinations of words. It sounds like you may know. What you do is you Google that exact word. You know, maybe it's this weird string of numbers. Just Google that, and usually one of the first results is going to be someone asking, "What is this?" is this important? And there are whole websites dedicated to telling you whether it's important or not, whether you should keep it going, whether you should uninstall it, and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it is almost as simple as Googling it, but that is an important part because a lot of people don't know where to go from there.
Right, right. So when you're going through to try to clear your tasks of possible malware, you're going to want to Google that.
It is a good idea. I have done it trial and error style, and so feel free to try.
We both need to apologize to our mom's computer.
Exactly, I know. My mom was not happy. So. So we learned about the MS config, and that's really very Windows only. So if you have Windows, start there. I really recommend that. Windows also has a couple things that it's trying to help you. So a lot of these things are trying to help you. It's just it gives you options. So another thing is Windows does power plans.
Okay.
So if you're on a laptop and you have a battery running that laptop, there are different ways you can use that battery to either use it to its fullest performance versus the most battery life. So Windows has these options. If you click, so I'll show you in my version of Windows. If you click in the lower right, there's the battery icon on the laptops running Windows. So right here in the lower right corner, there's this battery icon. You can click on it. Here it says select a power plan, balanced or power saver.
Okay.
So right there it gives you two options. Balance sounds good, okay. And then if you're maybe on the road or you're going to need to save battery, you can click this power saver. So that's cool to know, and you can read more about that. There's a link to an article that talks about the differences, the pros and cons.
Okay.
One thing that happens here that you may not realize is it will really limit your computer's quickness if you choose a power saver plan. So one thing that power saver does is it will limit the speed and power of your computer because it wants to save battery.
Right.
But maybe that you didn't mean to. Maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you want to use all of this. So what you can do is you can either change between these two, or there's these more power options. So you can get in there with the nitty gritty. You can say specifically, I don't want it to do this. So if you say change plan settings, then you get a couple options. There's even change advanced power settings. So here's, when do I turn off the screen? Screen? Most of those actually don't affect the performance that much, but there are a couple things. So if you look in here, there's processor power management, system cooling policy, on battery and plugged in, display multimedia settings. So some of these things are a little confusing at first, and I won't go too into depth because you can look this up, you can Google them. But some of these settings will actually make your computer run slower because it's saving battery.
Right.
So I want to make sure everybody knows is that sometimes that's good. Sometimes you want to save battery. But if you don't, and you're accidentally on the wrong plan, or you accidentally have some of the wrong settings, you may be running slower than you need to.
Right. Cool.
So I'm going to go quickly over some of the other operating systems because a lot of the things, the concepts are similar, and it seems like most of the students are running Windows. But for example, Mac OS X has a good activity monitor. It's sort of the same thing as Task Manager.
Okay.
You can see what's running and stop some of those things.
Nice.
And then I have a couple articles that will tell you about how to look on a Mac for what's causing things to be slow and how to fix that.
Great. I know a few students will definitely benefit from that.
Great.
Yeah.
And Linux, the same sort of deal. If you're running Linux and Ubuntu specifically, there's some examples of that.
Awesome.
So I want a quick word about malware. Malware is a word I'm using for kind of viruses or spyware or adware. There's a lot of words and it gets a little confusing. Malware is kind of the term to mean bad stuff.
Right. It's our umbrella term. Someone's getting at you.
Someone's getting at you. They're doing something sneaky and bad.
Right.
So I would say most of the slowness that is caused by people's computer is malware. So don't get freaked out. It's not that your whole identity is being stolen and you're going broke and you're going to end up in a dumpster somewhere. It's okay. It's not that. What it is that it's mostly advertising companies that will install things on your computer that will create extra pop-ups or maybe try and sneak in an advertisement when you didn't realize. It's that kind of stuff. They are not very concerned on making your computer run really fast.
Right.
They don't think at all about that.
Yeah, they need to route you to their stuff so you can buy their thing.
Exactly. So usually what's happening is that something somehow got installed, maybe accidentally clicked on something and installed something that is slowing down your computer. So malware and spyware and viruses is a whole topic for another day, but I will just say for now, get your virus software up to date and do a full scan and try and get rid of that stuff.
Right.
That may help. Okay, so now about games. Let's talk about games.
We got lots of gamers.
Sometimes we got gamers, and sometimes games start running a little slow.
Yep.
So what can you do about that? So thing number one is that sometimes you just have an old computer.
Yep.
I've always had old computers until recently, and it's just something you got to deal with, and especially for games. Games take a very specific kind of computer, a good computer to run really well.
A good way to figure it out is that if you have a game that was made this year, you're going to want a computer that was made this year to support what that game needs to function correctly. So if you have a game, say Oregon Trail from 1985, then you probably need a doorstop computer.
Yeah, right. At least 1985, if not 19.
But if you want the newest Call of Duty, like whatever the kids are doing these days, you got to get that. You got to get that recent computer.
It's true. So you can't expect your 3-year-old computer to do everything. So but that being said, there are things you can do. So I don't always want to go out and buy that new computer. So number one thing you can try is you can try turning down some of the options in the game. So when you start the game, if it's not looking very good, go into the settings, go into the options. A lot of times there's a whole screen based on little things you can do.
Right.
You can lower the resolution. That's one thing you can do.
Low res.
You can change the amount of textures or the quality of textures, the frame rates, the lighting. There's a lot of these more specific terms that you can read about on your own. But the bottom line is there's at least somewhere where you can start turning things down. So the game may not look as good, but a lot of times it's even better. It's a little more smooth. You can play it. You cannot feel like it's choppy and weird. So at least find that screen and mess around with some of the options.
Right.
Okay, so a graphics card is really what is doing most of the work for these video games. So if we're talking about a computer, not like an Xbox, but an actual computer or laptop, graphics cards are what's powering these games.
Okay.
So on desktops, a lot of times you can switch out the graphics card, like we talked about when buying a new computer or building a computer. Graphics card is part of it. You can buy a new graphics card to replace the old one, and instead of having to replace your whole computer, that may be enough to just make the game look great.
Wow.
So you can try that.
Nice.
Only in certain situations will that work, so I wouldn't say that's your first bet. But if you know what you're doing and you know that will help the specific game you're talking about.
Check out TechTown 25 for more information on graphics cards.
Exactly.
Yep.
So choppy video. Let's move on. So we're talking about games, video. Let's say you're watching a movie. Maybe it's on your computer. Maybe it's through Netflix or Hulu or YouTube. You're watching a YouTube video. Sometimes that video can get choppy. So that also can relate to this graphics card that we were talking about. So if you get a better graphics card, that may just help. You may be able to do that. But there are things you can do without getting a new graphics card and spending that money. So usually the problem is your computer's not quite powerful enough, so you got to do a couple little things. One of them is you could not watch it in full screen. Sometimes when you say full screen, then it starts getting a little choppy. So you could watch it on not full screen. But that's just terrible. Nobody wants, you want full screen, right?
Yep, that's true.
Okay, so what else can you do? Well, I would say narrow down the problem. So does a video playing on your computer work just fine? Is the problem only with the online videos? So, maybe you have a DVD in your computer, or maybe you have a video file on your computer, this hard drive that you double-click on and you play. If that runs fine, but the others don't, maybe something else with the internet or the browser, things are going on. So at least you can narrow it down that way. Let's say that's the case. Now go on the internet. Maybe certain sites work better than others.
Okay.
So try YouTube, try Hulu, try Netflix, try Vimeo. All these use a little bit different ways of doing video, and maybe some of them work better than others.
Cool.
Also, on that same note, browsers. Try Firefox, try Internet Explorer, try Chrome, try Safari. Try different ones, and I've actually found that certain videos will play better in different browsers.
Right.
That may change. Browsers are always updating and getting better or worse or whatever. So maybe today it's better on Firefox, but tomorrow it's better on Chrome.
Right. Yep. I know that our students have had issues with that before. Sometimes even our Brain Honey, our platform to get online, sometimes we get an update in Chrome or something like that, and all of a sudden you can't see anything that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And that happens. Too bad. And then there's one little extra little trick. If it's a Flash video, so Flash is a technology that a lot of websites used to use to present video. YouTube did, and they're actually moving away from that, but still a lot of it is done in Flash. So try right-clicking on a video. And if you see something pop up that looks like it's Adobe Flash related, there's settings in there, and one of the settings is disable hardware acceleration. I won't go into that, and I will give you some links in the show notes to do that, but that's just this one checkbox you can try, and if it works, it works.
Nice. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. So we talked mostly about computers, like desktops and laptops. When I say computers, it really means a lot of things. So it means these days smartphones, it means tablets, it means all these other things that are coming out. So those things also are running into the problems of slowing down. So even Android phones, after you first get them, they'll feel fresh, but a couple months, it's slowing down, things don't quite run. Maybe it's been 2 years with your iPhone and it's not running very well.
Right.
So the problems are still there.
Yeah.
It's a little better than before because it doesn't quite happen so much and it's not quite such a mystery, but it still does happen. So I have a couple links in the notes about what to do for those specific operating systems. So for Android, there's a screen that you can go and see what all is running in the background and you can stop it from happening. Same with iOS and Windows Phone. So check out those notes if your phone or tablet is starting to run a little slow.
Got it.
All right, so to wrap this up, just a couple big warnings. Things to watch out for. Number one, there's a lot of people that are going to try and capitalize on your fear of this.
Right.
So when my mom or me or my grandma thinks, oh, my computer's slow, what should I do? There's going to be pop-ups on the internet everywhere telling you, here's what you do. Click here to download this. It's free, and it will speed up your computer. Oh, you have a virus, all these things. Don't do that. So most of those things are not good. They're only going to cause more problems.
They're playing on your fears.
Exactly.
Ooh, they know you.
So they're going to install actually part of the problem. They're going to install a new thing that makes it even slower.
Right.
So most of the time, don't click on anything that says it's going to help.
You heard that, moms.
Yeah, exactly. Don't click.
Don't do it.
So I would say that the real way to do it is just your one antivirus program that you trust. So Microsoft Security Essentials or something like that. And these things we also discussed. Another one is it's tempting to want to buy a new computer. So, oh, hey, my computer's slow. Let's just go out and buy a new one. It'll be faster. It'll be great. That is fun, and that's cool, and your new computer will be better, but it's expensive, and you may not have needed to do that.
Right.
You could use some of these things to fix what was going on. All right, next is, so if you think, oh, I'll just clear up my hard drive. I'm going to delete some things from my hard drive and free up some space. Will that fix it? Well, a little, but probably not.
Okay.
It's the first thing a lot of people think of, but it's actually not really the main cause of the problem. So the time that it really will affect it is if you're really out of space. If you're running on like 1 megabyte or 10 megabyte, in the megabytes of space on your whole computer, not gigabytes, but megabytes, less than 1 gigabyte, then it can really start affecting your computer's performance.
Right.
But if you have 2 gigabytes or more, my guess is it's not the hard drive. You can delete everything you want. It's not going to actually make it run that much faster. So that's not what that part of the hardware does. Another one is you could upgrade the relevant hardware. So like I say, maybe the hard drive isn't the problem, but RAM actually can help speed up the computer in certain cases. Don't go out and just buy RAM. Do a little research, or I can talk about this more later, or watch TechTown 25. But certain things will help that sort of a problem, but you don't need to buy a whole new computer.
Right.
Maybe just buy a new graphics card for your games. Maybe just buy a new RAM because you have 6 programs running at once.
Yep.
And then lastly, so everybody in the business world wants you to spend more money on their stuff.
Yes.
So they're all going to try and get you to spend more money. Try and buy a new computer. Buy it.
Buy the newest version of TechTown.
Right. Buy the new. Well, you got to do that for sure. Yeah. But everybody else is wrong. Don't necessarily give into that pressure. Try some things out yourself. Don't just run out and buy new stuff. Try some of these unchecking those checkboxes or scanning for stuff for malware and deleting it. And eventually maybe you'll get a cool new computer, and that's fun too.
There you go. And that is wrapping it up for how to fix your computer. Up next is our music side of the week.
Music. All right. So this week on the music side of the week, I have a YouTube video, and I'll just play a quick clip of the YouTube video. You can take a look in the notes to be able to see it. And what this video is showing is how basically every song you could ever imagine is just 4 chords.
Right.
It's the same 4 chords. So I don't know if you've played a little guitar or if you've played any piano or something, and you learn a lot of pop music. It turns out they're all the same chords.
Right.
And that's kind of a crazy coincidence, isn't it? But it's actually not a coincidence either. So this is a video of these guys called the Axis of Awesome, and they're playing the 4-chord song.
Yep, these guys are great. And these guys have a bunch of great videos online.
Yeah, exactly. And so what they'll do, I'll skip ahead a little bit, is that they're just playing, I don't know how many songs it is. It's like 100 or 50 or something songs, and they're all using the exact same chords.
Right.
So what it's saying is that, yeah, music is different, but it's based on these same chords. So if you just use these same 4 chords, then you'll be able to play any song.
Very cool.
So take a look. It's kind of fun. They go through songs that you didn't even realize were the same chords as all the other songs.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our music
side of the week.
Up next is Mr. Ellsberg's website of the week. And this week we have one of these websites that's going to help you get everything done that you need to get done.
Of course, as
that's
your websites
right.
always do.
It's leakspin.com.
Oh, leakspin, nice.
Yeah,
so
sometimes
these are leaks.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to spin that leak.
So for other people who may not know what leeks are,
right? So leek
that's a leek.
Yeah, that's a leek. So it's a vegetable that is close to the onion in species genotype. So yep, and it's delicious.
Yeah,
it's not as strong as an onion.
No, but it spins.
Yeah, somewhat of a calçot, if you will, if you're from the northeastern region of Spain in Catalonia.
Wow.
Yeah, they eat these guys, but yep, these are delicious.
Nice, that sounds good.
Sometimes you just got to spin your leek.
Sometimes you got to spin your leek. All right, well, excellent and useful as always. Thank you.
That's right.
All right, so, and finally for the security tip of the week. Security. Nice lockdown. So yes, this week's security is about black hat versus white hat hackers.
Ooh.
So if you think of hackers, that's a pretty interesting word because some people hack for different reasons or some things are not hacking. But people who probe around, try and do some things on the internet and with technology, there's kind of the black hat and the white hat. And they just came up with these words to mean kind of the illegal evildoers.
Okay, the black.
And the people, and the white hats are the people who know what those people know, but use their services for good instead of evil.
Okay.
So when you talk about a white hat conference, they have some of these. That's a conference, a meeting, where all the people who are in this field get together, and what they'll do is they'll try and hack things, but show their results and show what the problems are and how to fix them and tell companies better how to do this.
Yeah, so they hack it before the black hats can get to them. So the black hats have conferences? They can't. They have conferences?
They have conferences. We may not get to go to them or know about them, but they have their things,
Okay.
Both underground and not.
Right.
So we support the white hats because not only do they know their stuff, they're actually doing the good things. And so it's amazing. If you go look around, there are people kind of hacking for good everywhere.
Right.
People finding bugs, finding problems, and then releasing them in the correct way.
Okay.
Because that's actually interesting. What if a white hat found a problem, but then told the bad people about it and not the good people about it?
Ooh, sounds like they're
You would
getting
just
gray.
Make things worse rather than better.
Getting
gray hats.
Yeah. And I would assume there's a lot of gray area when it comes to hacking.
Oh, there is.
For good or for evil. There's a lot of gray.
So I gotta say, stay away from the black hat hacking. Go towards the white hat if you need to, and let's help the world by hacking.
That's right. Use the force for good.
Exactly.
Okay, guys. So today we talked about fixing computers.
Getting them not slow, not annoyingly bogged down, but smooth.
MS config. Check out your startup.
Mm-hmm.
Check those other sites that we have listed in there. Music, 4 chords. It's all from the same 4 chords.
It is.
When it comes to pop music, that's how they do it. 4 chords. It just sounds so good to the human ear, doesn't it?
It does. It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
Well, if you get confused with that, just go right to leakspin.com.
That's right. Learn everything else you need to know from spinning leaks.
That's right. And finally, white hats, black hats. We support the white hats here, right? We want to hack for good.
Hack for good.
Yeah, that's right. Let's bring a good name to the hackers out there.
Exactly.
All right, guys. We'll take care, and we will see you next week here at TechTown. And remember to leave your comments in the section below because we want to hear back from you. And take care. Have a great week.
And go Blazers!
Go Blazers!